Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Strategic Business Influencer, my series for leaders who know that in today's evolving world, trust is the greatest competitive advantage. Today on the Strategic Business Influencer, I am joined by Bart Davis. He is the co-founder and CEO of 512 Financial and what he calls a reformed but still active CPA, which we'll get to. Bart's career started in the traditional world of accounting. His experience spans from time at PwC, followed by over a decade of leading finance and accounting in the software industry, including navigating capital raises and M&A deals. But like many entrepreneurs, he saw a gap in the market. Growing businesses needs a high-level financial expert without the full-time cost and overhead. And that insight sparked what would become 512 Financial. Since officially launching in 2022, Bart and his team have built a fast-growing company that provides outsourced finance, HR, and marketing services for growth-minded businesses, helping them scale smarter, not just bigger, which I love. Under Bart's leadership, 512 Financial has grown more than tenfold in less than 3 years, serving over 70 clients and earning an impressive Gallup engagement score of 4.64 out of 5, which is out of this world, demonstrating that their culture of trust, flexibility, and excellence is effective. Bart brings a fresh perspective on leadership, scaling, and how to build a company that prioritizes both people and performance. So welcome, Bart. Thank you so much for being on today.
Thanks for having me, Paige. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, everybody is in for a treat. I have the joy of knowing you personally and just seeing the trajectory of 512 Financial. And I feel like every time I look, y'all are just hitting new milestones as a business. So first, I want to congratulate you on building a phenomenal business, but I'm also excited for everybody to hear insights on that.
Thank you. Yeah, happy to share whatever I've got.
Well, I want to start here. You described yourself as a reformed but active CPA, which I love. What was the moment that you realized you wanted to step out of that traditional accounting path and build something of your own?
I think those were two different milestones or realizations. So the stepping out of the sort of traditional accounting path happened when I met what turned out to be my co-founder. Didn't know that's how it would all shake out, but back in 2014, I met Joel Trammell, who you know, who's been sort of a pillar in the Austin entrepreneurial community for a long time. And that was when I was with PwC in a very, a prototypical or stereotypical accounting career trajectory, and met him and just felt like he presented an opportunity that doesn't come along very often. And that opportunity and that sort of use case was, he was the lead investor and co-chairman in two software companies. He needed a different approach to the accounting solution and team, and he wanted to hire me to build that out. And so that was, I hadn't thought prior to that meeting, like, I'm done with public accounting, but sometimes opportunities come your way that just you don't pass on. And so that's what that felt like. And that's when I decided, to kind of step away from a normal accounting path. And then 7 years later, after we had worked together for a long time and sold those businesses and done a few other things, was when we realized there's something here that we should be doing for people other than Joel. And so that was the go out on your own or with Joel, kind of move from a employee to a founder.
Wow. That's really neat. And for anybody that doesn't know Joel, first off, like you said, he's a huge pillar in the entrepreneur scene here in Austin, but that is such an untraditional path from where you were, jumping out into that. And I feel like, you don't hear a lot of CPAs who are getting creative with their career like that. So I love that. What did you see in your years inside the software industry? So, or even back at PwC that made you believe businesses needed that new kind of financial partner?
Yeah. I mean, I had never heard of a fractional anything at PwC, right? That are obviously large companies. I as an auditor on Plains All American Pipeline, worked directly with people who had very specific full-time roles at that company, and I was in there all year round. Again, that was even on the client side, I was there all year round, full time on that engagement. And so shifting first to just doing something, kind of controllership for two companies was new and a new concept. And then having that become obviously the business that is now 512 Financial, and applying that to things outside of accounting. You mentioned HR, talent, CFO, things of that nature, has been. I mean, I kind of approached it similarly to how I did working for Joel, where like they're opportunities that made sense. They were a little bit outside of my comfort zone or standard path, but they did make sense to me. They felt logical. I'm very much like a logic-driven person, and that logic sort of felt like it de-risked some of those decisions. Mm-hmm. So, I don't think it's like something I learned specifically in software, but it was something, again, kind of just in the entrepreneurial world, identifying this need for the skill set and the expertise and the experience, but at a scale that doesn't support or justify the full, salary and benefits and tax burden of an employee.
Yeah, and there's a lot of businesses that are in that market where exactly what you described, they need that support, but it doesn't quite make sense for that full-time hire. What interests me so much about your business is fractional work requires just an unusual level of trust, especially when you're talking financials, talent, HR, all the things that your company does, because you're truly stepping into the inner circle of a business. And I'm sure a lot of business owners have anxiety around those parts of the business and who they trust to run that. How do you earn trust quickly, especially when you're handling something as personal as finances or people with your clients?
Yeah, I think the way to earn trust is just to over communicate early, because it is sensitive data, information, etc. that if your client only hears from you every so often and they haven't worked with you before, there's like am I really getting the time and attention that I need? I mean, and it's natural. There's nobody should be blamed for that. And so we really encourage at the beginning of an engagement, a relationship, which we always, of course, hope is long-term, to just really over communicate, because even if you are doing all of the things they need, that's not their world. They aren't accountants or HR people. And so if they don't see it, they struggle with that. And they just wonder, like, I'm sending this person my bank statements and my, and my new employee's social security number and, things of that nature that is scary. And so we just really try to be in front and be visible, especially at the beginning, until you can establish that, like, okay, yeah, Bart knows what he's doing. And I don't have, getting a daily or however often email or Slack from him is not necessary to know that what needs to happen behind the scenes is happening.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right about the communication up front. And I'm curious, from, a business leader, how do you hire the right talent for that too? I mean, that's the thing that we're all trying to crack as business leaders.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's almost equal parts technical skill and just people skills and soft skills, because there's, you mentioned how big the market is for customers or for companies that need this type of service. Well, people aren't dumb and notice that there's also a gigantic market of fractional firms out there now. And so what differentiates that? Lots of them have quality people to do, like, who really know how to do debits and credits or payroll or offer letters or benefits administration. And so the way to differentiate is to have people who are just enjoyable to be around and work with. So, and of course, marry that with those technical skills. And so, we have a pretty arduous interview process. And I always thank/apologize to people when they go through it. But I'm like, look, this is our product. You are our product. And so we can't risk getting that wrong.
Absolutely. No, I love that explanation. And it's like, if you're not willing to go through these steps, then they're probably not a good fit for the culture and what's going to be expected from them on the team, I imagine.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's, yeah, again, it's there's some acknowledgement in that, as well as, one of our long-term core values has been balance, but it's not balance in the way that I think millennials in particular, but people overall think of balance. I think people today think of balance as, I work 9 to 5 and I'm done. That is sometimes the reality here, but not always. And if you pretend that it is, then there's going to be an incongruence and people are going to get frustrated, right? We do occasionally have deadlines or projects or things that necessitate some longer hours. But then on the backside of that, the sort of mantra under the balance is work hard, play hard. And so when people are away, we want them away. We don't want them checking their laptop or Slack or whatever while they're on the beach or in the mountains or whatever they're doing to unwind, because that would be, that would take away from their ability to go the extra mile when sometimes it truly is necessary in this space. So
absolutely. Well, let's talk about the growth trajectory. So you've grown 512 Financial more than tenfold in under 3 years. And so I'm curious, from your perspective, what systems or philosophies have really been the backbone of being able to scale a service business without sacrificing the quality or your culture?
Yeah. It's not easy, and I'm not sure that I'm sure we've done plenty of things incorrectly. Joel mentioned when we first started, like, the problem you'll always have in a services business is this, supply and demand issue. You're always either going to have, too many people and not enough work for them to do, or too much work and not enough people to do the work. And so, we've tried a wide array of trackers, both from Excel to various tools, from like a resource planning perspective, knowing that is perpetually going to be the hardest challenge. And so that's one thing, is just like resource planning, doing our best to match the needs of the pipeline and or clients with our talent, which again usually has gone well, but not always. And then the other is, again, kind of a Joel thing. So he wrote a book called The CEO Tightrope, in which he describes sort of like how his view of org structure. And the view there is kind of fundamentally aligned around what he calls the 2 triangles of tension. Those triangles being customers, employees, and shareholders, and then product, sales, and marketing. And so that, like, a very easy, over-exaggerated way to think about that on that first triangle, customers, employees, shareholders, right, is like if you're one of these startups who like gets a kegerator and ping pong tables and pool tables and all of that, like, that's great for the employee, probably not great for the shareholder, right?
Right.
And also maybe not good for the customer. And so anyway, so he has sort of instilled that into me and us from when we were 4 people to today north of 50. So that the way that we plan and set goals and orient our objectives sort of equally emphasizes all 6 points in those 2 triangles of tension, so that we're not ignoring any one thing and creating a problem for ourselves down the road.
Yeah, but I'm sure, like you said, that balance is hard, and I'm sure you get, one way or the other, and you're always having to course correct and readjust, especially with how quickly y'all are growing.
Yes. And again, it's not that there are certain quarters or months or whatever that it is appropriate to prioritize one of those areas, but without, having sort of we have a goal tied to each of them every single quarter, so that, again, we don't totally over-index on one thing and forget about something for the marketing team, or forget about something for people or employees or shareholders, whatever it might be.
Absolutely. And I've read the CEO Tightrope several times. Also a big fan of the CEOS system as well.
Yes.
Which it sounds like y'all follow quite a bit. But I would love to know personally from you, Bart, just throughout your journey, what has surprised you most about stepping into the CEO seat? And what has demanded the biggest growth from you personally as the company has grown?
I think a pretty big realization or mindset shift is just sort of around who chooses to sit in the CEO seat, which now obviously includes myself. Coming up as an accountant / CFO, I often joked / thought like, gosh, CEOs are crazy. Why are they so crazy? Decision making or just any through any number of lenses, like that's what I saw and felt. And I still, and so then as we started 512 Financial, I often thought to myself, like, how do I make sure I'm not the crazy CEO? And I think I've mostly avoided it, but I have very much realized why it's there. I mean, it's a strange seat where, you have to make decisions about things that you only maybe have part of the data on, but that doesn't change the fact that a decision does have to be made. And so people who are comfortable doing that have a certain confidence, personality, whatever it might be, that they're comfortable doing that. And so now it kind of all makes sense. And I still think how, try to not be an extra crazy CEO, but it's like, it's almost necessary that you have to, make decisions on half-baked data or make personnel decisions that to people who aren't close to the problem, like, don't make sense. And so from afar, it's like, well, Jane Doe was absolutely incredible. Why would Bart let Jane go? Or I can't see why he likes this Jack guy or whatever. And it's just, so that's been the biggest kind of mindset shift and realization of like what the job really entails and why it does attract, I think, a certain type of person.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. You have to have almost this specific type of appetite for healthy risk, maybe is a good way to talk about it responsibly. And, also you just have such a different perspective in that seat that nobody else has in the organization, which you're right. What do you feel like maybe the biggest area of growth from you has been?
I think it's, in growing also, you do have to become more comfortable and confident in allowing others to make certain decisions. And knowing that you now know even less than you used to, right? Like at the beginning, I could, right. I would always have told you I knew nothing about marketing, for example, but I knew everything about all of our customers at the beginning because we only had 4 or 10 or 15. Now it would be impossible for me to know everything about each of the customers. And that has been a somewhat painful transition to like know and understand that and figure out how to make sure we still serve them when I'm not intimately familiar with all of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For entrepreneurs that are listening that are maybe getting close to that level in their business, what advice or what would you tell them just to get through that or grow into that next level?
An really overly simplified version. So I'm like a huge proponent of do what you say you're going to do. Sounds so simple, but I think if A, you do what you say you're going to do, and B, you surround yourself with other people who do what they say they're going to do, then it becomes a lot easier to trust them to handle your customers or your financials or your people ops or whatever the thing that that sort of unlocks you to go to the next either growth stage or strategy set or whatever it might be. And so I think you can be intentional about finding the things that you either don't like or recognize that you aren't good at, and then prioritize finding people who do what they say they're going to do and know that thing to free yourself up to do what you're good at. and what allows
Yeah.
you to serve the business the best.
I love that. And it's so simple, but so true. Now, in a world where businesses are just overwhelmed with options, so there's consultants I'm sure y'all come up against, there's agencies, there's AI tools, which I can't imagine probably how much y'all hear about that. What do you believe actually differentiates a service business today and creates that long-term loyalty?
Yeah, it's interesting as we step into, agentic everything and AI in everyone's pocket and all of this to say what I'm about to say. But I do think that the differentiator remains, and for the foreseeable future will remain, the people. Mm-hmm. Even if and when the kind of initial output or deliverable is fully AI generated, which is, at least for us, is not the case yet, but we hope to have some of those in the not too distant future.
Sure.
There still is going to be someone that is reviewing that output, telling the story to the client, business owner, or whatever, beyond just and giving context and answering questions that real-time experience, at least I think, necessitates. Now, again, we're moving a million miles an hour on what AI can do, and I don't want to be naive to that, but my opinion for the time being, and I think for at least the next number of years, is that the people are the differentiator, even as you embed AI into what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I completely agree. We've kind of seen the same thing. And like you said, it's AI can get you so far, but the people and the consulting along that and, just that differentiator is the only way you're going to be able to stand out in the landscape. Now, there are two questions, Bart, that I love to ask every entrepreneur, and I'm excited to hear your answer. So the first one is, who are you in addition to being a CEO?
So I'm a dad. I'm a dad and a husband. So we have almost 5-year-old girl and a 1.5-year-old girl who keep me extraordinarily busy outside of 9 to 5. And then, of course, husband is that came before the dad part. So I've been married for close to 13 years now to my college sweetheart. And so, yeah, obviously those are two big things. I'm a bird nerd. Enjoy bird watching. So that's one that I picked up as a kid and have maintained that level of dorkiness throughout my life, despite being encouraged not to at certain ages and phases of life. Now it's cool-ish, but as a 12-year-old, being into bird watching was pretty weird. So yeah,
that's amazing. Do you do that with your daughters ever?
I've tried. With the baby, it's easy. Sometimes it's just a way to get her out of the house, and maybe she falls asleep for a nap while we go somewhere. I've gotten glimpses of interest from the 5-year-old, but we'll still working on that.
There you go.
Yeah.
And then my second question, Bart, is what is the impact that you want to have at the end of every single day?
That's a great and interesting question. I would paraphrase or summarize it as create opportunities.
Yeah. And
that obviously is a pretty vague thing to say, but there's just a lot of examples of ways to do it as a business owner, right? It's opportunities for myself to learn and grow. It's opportunities for our clients to grow economically. It's opportunities for our people to expand their skill set and get promoted and make more money and share what they've learned with their clients and their families. And so, yeah, it is like intentionally vague because it means lots of things, but I do feel like I have the ability to do that in a way I didn't expect to, frankly. Mm-hmm. If I think back to like being in high school and college and what I thought was in or out of bounds for myself from a career and impact perspective. I'm in a different place than I thought I would be, and I'm trying to to capitalize on that for the sake of kind of whoever's in my sphere.
That's beautiful. And it's very unique that you have the opportunity to do that. So I love that you're jumping on that, leveraging as much as possible and creating as much opportunity as possible. Very, very beautiful. Well, Bart, I would love for you to share, if anybody's listening, anybody that's thinking, hey, I might need this fractional support, how do they reach out to you? How do they learn more about 512 Financial?
Yeah, for sure. The two easiest ways are our website and our LinkedIn page. So the website is 512financial.com, or you can search 512 Financial on LinkedIn. We're pretty active over there. And there's a lot of resources about what we do, how we do it. We have a pretty cool tool on the website called our fractional savings calculator there's a bunch of toggles for, hey, if I'm going to hire this level of person and I can assume there's, kind of sliding scales, I can assume that benefits cost 10% and recruiting costs 15%, and there's a 10% bonus, or you can scale all of those down if you wanted to be totally bare bones. And just to compare that against what it would cost to hire a 30% controller or HR manager or whatever, it's a pretty great, really quick way to figure out what would this mean for my budget as I think about how to attack, some of those parts of your business that need attention.
That's awesome. Yeah. So if you are thinking about that, make sure to go use that tool, 512financial.com. And thank you so much, Bart, for spending time with us today and just sharing all of your knowledge, your experience, your expertise. I know everybody listening to this will get so much out of it. So thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate the time and the opportunity to chat with you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, we will see you all next time.